Morning, Professor.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
That's all right. Woke up a little late this morning, but doing fine.
Oh, that's good. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How you doing, Dennis?
Good. How are you doing?
Hanging in there. Almost done with this quarter.
Yeah. I noticed that you made Darian the co-host, not me.
Oh, it's because this thing moves all the time.
Yeah.
Let me see. Sorry, Darian. Can't make you co-host anymore. There you go. Well, since we made Darian co-host, let's just let Darian take care of the class today. How's that sound? You up for that, Darian? I'm not going to get any response from Darian today. Good morning, Joyce.
Good morning, Professor. You look well.
Thank you.
Good. You ready for today?
Not at all.
All right. Well,
do I have a
My
choice?
life in a nutshell, dude.
Do I have a choice? If I'm ready or not, I still have to do it, right?
oh, you have a choice. We'll have a choice, right?
That's true.
There is a choice.
There was an article that was emailed to me, among other articles. It was kind of a thing that they did from Harvard Business School. It says, even though you're not ready to do your class today, this is what you have to do to get through it. So
It was helpful.
I don't know. I didn't read the article.
Well, there you go, mate.
I thought, it's funny because my brother-in-law, he always has to get motivated. He always has to motivate himself to do things. I'm one of those people where I wake up in the morning and I just know what I have to do and go do it. I don't second guess it. I just get up and do it. So I've always kind of been that way. So I don't need the motivation that I guess some people need motivation to get out of bed or a cup of coffee or something.
So long as you get the job done, whether you're self-motivated or you have something else to motivate you.
Yeah, and I don't drink coffee, so I got to do something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I want to put the positive spin on it, but I personally think work doesn't care why you want it done. It just needs to be done.
Yeah, pretty much. I think the motivation for me is not to be homeless. So I get up in the morning, go to work. So all right, we got about 73 people. We'll wait a few more moments before a few more people trickling in. So any questions, concerns about what's going on with anything in the chapters, the midterm, the final, or the group project? We're going to wrap things up a little early today because we have another couple more groups that want to meet. No? Okay. So everybody knows exactly what they're doing. Not even close, huh?
So, Professor, So
Yes.
for the project, do we have to cover, in the external environment, do we have to cover the international market, or that's optional?
Well, if you're not doing anything international, then you don't have to cover it.
Hmm, okay.
Like one of the students wanted to know about the pestle. I go, well, you're probably not going to do a pestle because you're probably not going to do anything international with the company.
With the company, yeah.
So the pestle probably wouldn't apply.
But-
And that's another thing too. You guys got to be very much aware of which matrix to use to evaluate a company, which ones to use, which ones not to use.
Mm, mm. So but what if your competitors, or those that you would compete with, because it's a ceramic company, right? And
Mhm.
most other companies make their products or outsource it to low wage countries. Does that factor in?
You can, if it's a direct competitor. Like I said, the pestel, the political, economical, um, legal. So if those items or those issues pertain to
When
what
you're
you're
trying to
doing, then
penetrate the market there?
yeah, if those issues pertain to that, then yes, absolutely use that. But these are just frameworks. These are another person asked me a question. They're doing a competitive analysis for their internship, and they're also taking the business 109 class, and they're asking about their company wanted him to write up a report, and he asked me if the business report was was like a competitive analysis report, and it actually is. These The business plan, business analysis report, competitive analysis report, they're all very similar of what you want to do with the who, why, where, and when. And then what people fail in a lot of the times is they don't actually answer the question. If your boss says, hey, this competitor is doing this, how are we going to compete with it? So they do a market analysis, they do a sales analysis, a product analysis, a competitive analysis, but they don't tell the boss what they actually asked is how we're going to compete. They don't answer the question. So many times that's the case. Excuse me. So make sure you answer the specific question that's being asked. Many times the students don't answer the question in their report, how are we going to solve the problem of making immediate revenue within 12 months? So that's, when somebody asks you to help solve a problem, that's what you need to do. Excuse me. All right, shall we get started? This is actually the last chapter in the book. All right, so second part of week 9, and we're going to go over the chapter 14, strategy and society, and which is the entrepreneur, social entrepreneur. And then next week we're going to do chapters 1 through 14. I'm going to review them and how they're going to apply to your final project and your final exam. And then group projects we can work in on Wednesday. So I'll have kind of a free open forum on Wednesday during class. So nobody will have an excuse not to be there. If you want to ask questions or have help with your final group project or anything along the lines with the final. And apparently there's something going on in Miami, March 11th through 22nd. Just thought I'd throw that in there because I'm ready for a spring break vacation myself. Okay, so today we're going to talk about social entrepreneur, corporate social responsibility, and all those other good things. So everything from international, like this picture shows, helping develop farmers in third world countries. So large companies and educational institutions are helping people of all social economical backgrounds to start their own companies. All right, this is a social entrepreneurs at UCR. You can see here, I participated in a panel a couple years back, and I was the only one that didn't start my company as a social entrepreneur. I started my company because I didn't work well with others and I didn't want to work for anybody. So I started my own company. But many of these people, especially the guy sitting right next to me, Andy, he started a company to help the nuclear power plant victims in Japan. So he started a T-shirt company that did nothing but that. The girl in the middle, Amber, she started a company, a jewelry company, to help women's causes. So, and then the other guys on the end there all started their companies for other social reasons, social responsible reasons. So they're all students. The companies, they didn't actually make a living off the companies, but they started their companies to be socially responsible, to help a lot of people. So, like I said, myself, even though I didn't start my company to do that, I ended up doing a lot of different things with other organizations. City of Hope is one of the biggest ones that I do a lot of charity work with. And in my community itself, I work with um, Rotary International and a lot of the community developments, like for the high schools. I help out at the high schools in my area and all that other stuff. So even though I didn't start my company to become a social entrepreneur, later in years, I ended up doing a lot of volunteer work and a lot of social work with the City of Hope and other organizations. So a lot of companies, that started out and that are older are actually doing a lot of stuff that is social responsibility in their community. Social entrepreneur, an individual or organization that uses free market principles and creates for-profit business with the goal of creating value. So remember Martin Burt from Ashawn, educated at George Washington University. He started a educational institution to help the farmers in Latin America become social and responsible entrepreneurs, to help them lift them out of poverty. This is types of social entrepreneurs. This is in your book. So capacity building, social biocular, combines existing resources to focus value creation. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Products and services, social constructor, develops new models and products or service. And social engineers, agitate for change and design more effective social systems. So there's not just one type of a social entrepreneur. There's many, many different types, and for many different reasons. I started my business because I didn't want to work for somebody, and I thought I was just as smart as my boss. When I made them $300,000 in 1 year, I said, why would I give them all this money when I could, keep a large portion of it to myself? So that kind of motivated me to start my own business. Three types of value. Economic value increases income, wealth, or profit. Social value increases the well-being of non-economic areas. A lot of the times, literacy, health, and housing are the major things, especially in developing countries, that you want to help with social value. And then shared value, when creating economic value and also create social value. So, and that's really the goal for many of these social entrepreneurs, is to do both, creating economic value and also create social value. So economic value fails to enhance social value. So the fast foods, for example, if you create a fast food restaurant and the soda creates diabetes, what's the purpose of, there's really no social value in that, when even though you're creating money, you're making people sick. So creating social value destroys economic value. Housing projects that depress real estate. For example, building a homeless shelter complex in the middle of downtown Los Angeles. Nobody wants it there because it brings down the property values. They've thrown literally tens of millions of dollars at this problem in Los Angeles. Actually, they gave them $4 billion over the last few years. And all they've done is they've hired people to build homeless shelters, but they have no place to build them because nobody wants them there. So even though you're throwing money at the problem, you're still not getting the problem done. So that's what happens when you value destroys economic value. So it brings the property values down. Nobody wants the homeless people in their neighborhood, even though there's space for them. There's all the facilities and the structure set up for that. Nobody wants it. situations where shared value might actually exist. Cisco Systems did a training academies. They're very successful at that. A lot of other companies have started to do certain things like that. So Cisco is not only one, but Microsoft also does that, and a few other the large companies do that. So the shared value, the simultaneous creation of economic value for the business and social value for the larger community. Economic value, the creation of income, wealth, and other economic outcomes for individuals and organizations. Excuse me. And social value, improvements in the non-elements of individual lives and community well-being. So sustainable stakeholder advantage, the ability of organization to consistently gather resources from or provide services to key stakeholders, such as the donors, volunteers, students, clients. And ValueNet, a model of value creation that describes how an organization interacts with others and environmental to create value. The ValueNet consists of 4 elements: customers, suppliers, competitors, and complementers. So you'll see when a company goes into a small town or something, or into a small village in a foreign country, basically that company is everything to the community. So should it actually take care of the community, or should it just be there to make money and take advantage of the cheap labor? What do you guys think about that?
I mean, off the bat, I don't think you should like use people as if they're just resources to be expended. Uh, but
They're human capital, right?
yes, so you should treat them like humans, I guess.
But they're human capital, but they're capital.
Okay, and if I treated you as if you were like some workhorse that I'd shoot in the head if you couldn't work anymore, would you feel good about that?
Well, my wife threatens that all the time. She's going to put me down with the dog.
Okay, I can see who wears the pants in your situation.
No, but you know, companies like Hormel, they'll go into a small town in the Midwest, and basically they provide the whole economic structure of the town. They provide all the jobs, they provide all the community services, things that that a town couldn't afford unless they had a major economic stimulus. So basically, you know, when a company goes into a town like that, they control everything. And the people really don't have the economic resources to do otherwise. You know, and a lot of times they'll give them a tax break and not charge them taxes. That's how most of these major cities make their money, is off of taxes, right? So they give them a free pass to do whatever they want. So in exchange, what do you think? Do you think that's right? Do you think maybe they should show more, you know, more compassion for their stakeholders?
Mark, you're mute.
Sorry, I'm mumbling to myself. I don't have anything to say yet.
Okay. So what about the 82 other people in the class? Should I start calling on people?
I'll say something. Maybe they should show some compassion to their stakeholders, but I don't know anymore, because after the company that manufactures Apple and Samsung's displays on their phones, and I believe it does it on the laptops too, but wasn't it that they were miserable and killing themselves because of their working situation, but it never drove the sales of those products down? It seemed like nobody cares.
Well, yeah, that's indicative to a lot of industries, especially the garment industry. Look what you know, the child labor laws and all this other stuff, how they exploit a lot of workers. And, you know, you guys still go out and buy the name brands.
This persists because of us, doesn't it? Wow.
Well, a lot of the problems are, like the way that these social media companies get away with pretty much doing whatever they want with your information. Nobody reads the fine print, right? It says, "Do you accept?" and you just say yes without reading it. And they pretty much, like I said, like I've told you, corporations are self-governing. Besides breaking certain laws, they're not responsible to do anything for you. You guys, myself included, I'm just as guilty as everyone else. I don't always sit there and read all 20 pages of small fine print that I can't even read without my super huge glasses. So it's I'm just as guilty as everybody else when it says yes, I accept to use my Instagram account or to use Facebook or to use anything. If I want to communicate with other people, I'm pretty much saying yes, go ahead, use my information, sell it, do whatever you want with it. I don't care.
Oh.
In the UK, they do have this clause in the contract laws that that states, fine prints like that might be detrimental to the customer. You have to make it very clear to them that it's important. So either you put like a red hand pointing to that clause, or you write it in bold letters.
Yeah.
So you can't just get away with putting it in very fine print, because then when you go to court, the consumer wins because you didn't formally inform them. So it's America, then America should change their laws.
Well, that's the problem is we do need to change a lot of things, but the problem is government won't change. And then you have the people lobbying against the change that they're lobbying for these big companies, these big social media companies that say, hey, don't change. We don't want the change. So they don't.
So do we just wait until everyone in a government seat dies and then lets the younger people come in?
It doesn't matter.
Lobbying, isn't that a fancy way to say bribery?
Well, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Hey, we're gonna give you all this money if you do what we want. God, everything is just
exactly
embellishment.
How it works.
I hate euphemisms. They block people off.
Well, and then not only that, but look at the $1.9 trillion package they're trying to put through the Senate now, and only 9% of it actually goes to COVID relief programs. The other parts, California, New York, and Illinois get hundreds of millions of dollars, and they can do whatever they want with it. It's not even going towards COVID. They don't even have to put it towards COVID. They can use it to bail themselves out. So, even though you got to read the fine print, that it all comes down to the fine print. All right, this is not the class to discuss that, so let's get back to what we were talking about. All right.
Well, okay, so the question was, is it right to make villages or small towns, is it right to basically use them for your own purposes?
Use them as their own purposes, which many corporations do, but some don't. So the strategy and social value of organizations, you have the organization within a community. It has its customers, its complementors, suppliers, and competitors. So I took this from your book. So an individual, group, or organization that makes customers value the organization's output more because of its products. So Microsoft, Intel, some of these other companies, they basically, their products you can't live without. You can't live without your Facebook, your Instagram, some of these other things, the Microsoft, a lot of the Microsoft products that come in every single computer. So it's more because of the product and the service that you allow them to do these kind of things, or is it, you just allow them to do it? So corporate responsibility, activities of companies designed to further some social objective that lie beyond the direct economic interests of the organizations. So what is the social interest of a lot of these companies? What is, Professor Dodd said the stakeholder model, that the community should benefit from these, as opposed to Burrell, who said that the company should benefit from these. So, when you have a small microcosm of an economy, like a small town or a small country or a region in a country, in a village, the companies go in there and they pretty much exploit the cheap labor, And since the cheap labor is not organized, they pretty much do whatever they want. Dole has been doing it for over 100 years in, South America to bring, the bananas and other products from those countries. At one time, the United States government actually declared that one of the tribes in, where Dole was doing business, that they were a terrorist faction. So Dole couldn't use those people to do business with anymore. It was a lot more political involved in that, but it was that's one of the ways that they get around doing things like that with the government and the corporations. So you can't regulate the corporation, but you can declare all their workers terrorists. So that's kind of something that's for another class. That was my negotiations class. We did a case study on that. So economic responsibilities. So the corporation is not regulated by any government agency. They're self-regulating. So the economic responsibilities is up to them, what they want to do, how they want to do it. Legal responsibilities. Yes, there are certain legal things that you can't do as a corporation, just like a person. You can't murder people. You can't pollute. You can't throw trash out your window when you're driving down the freeway. So there are certain legal responsibilities that a corporation has to abide by. Ethical responsibilities. So what is your ethics threshold? Like we saw from Wells Fargo, sometimes it's illegal, sometimes it's not illegal. $2 billion a year in collecting overdraft fees, it's not illegal. Is it unethical? I don't know. Should you not spend more money than what you have in your account? That's your legal, that's a legal ethic. So philanthropical responsibilities, what should they do? Should they build parks in the community? Should they keep the drinking water clean? What are all the things that they should do in the community extra that they're not legally responsible for doing? So those are all questions, questions of corporate social responsibility. So economic responsibility is firm obligations to generate economic profit. So obviously a company, when it goes into an area, wants to create profit for everybody. So you can't do good works if you're not creating profits to spend on that. Just ask Google, they will tell you. Legal responsibilities, a firm's obligation to obey the written and codified laws of the countries in which it operates. And ethical responsibilities, obligation to abide by the written and ethical standards, norms of the community. So what is the normal standard operating procedure within that community? So each community is different. So if you're in the Midwest, as opposed to a backwards village in Colombia or a third world country, the norms are going to be a lot different. So that's something you have to consider when you're doing the social responsibility. And a philanthropical responsibility, a firm's obligation to contribute to enhancing of the community in which it operates. So as you can see, the corporate responsibility, it affects many, many different aspects of the community around it. Everything from sustainability, resources, responsibility, the market itself. So like I said, like myself, I didn't start off doing being a corporate social responsibility type business, but companies like Levi's, it took them only 100 and something years to figure this out, but they finally became a little bit more aware of what was going on with the water and other certain things. Like other companies will do solar panels on top of their roofs to help with the electricity of their plants. So they're starting to make trying to get towards a zero footprint when it comes to taking up a lot of the resources in the areas. So just like Levi's, many other companies are doing things like that. Firms that are supposed to be socially responsible. And again, they are all self-regulating. There's nobody telling them to do this. So Microsoft, out of the goodness of their own heart, and Google, and I think, Amazon has a commercial out now on every TV station, how they've given away thousands and thousands of free meals or millions of free meals. and help the community. So these are the companies, the top 6 or so companies. It kind of switches up depending on what list you look at. But usually Google, Microsoft, Starbucks, Ben and Jerry's, and Tom's are all on the top of the list. I think Bombas was on there. I think I bagged on Bombas yesterday or Monday. So these are the socially responsible companies. Coke and Pepsi, 2 of the biggest and largest companies worldwide, say they're supposed to be socially responsible, but they're slow to market when it comes to things like that. A lot of times the employees will have programs that will promote corporate social responsibilities. So a lot of the times, the companies will give them 40 hours or 80 hours a year to go do work on your projects during working hours, which is good. So that's one way to promote corporate responsibility. What are their legal responsibilities? To comply with all health and safety regulations, including clean water, waste disposal, and to comply with all labor laws. Some cities have passed legislation prohibiting soda sales in schools. So, the sugar is killing our kids, killing our adults. The processed food is #1 cause of diabetes. So what about their ethical responsibilities? In 2014, Coke and Pepsi started buying up and creating water companies. So because they knew what was coming, they saw the writing on the wall. So they said that, yes, we'll comply with all of that. And even though they did, the Diet Coke and the Diet sodas are different depending on which country you are because of the legislation and the laws. For example, when I was touring Italy and Spain, the Diet Coke was called Coke Light, and it had an expiration date on it, and it was only good for a little bit, and it tasted a lot better than the Diet Coke here in the United States. So certain laws regulate what companies can do. So what Coke can get away with here in the United States, they couldn't get away with in Europe because of the ingredients that they use. And that's another thing too. The ingredients were a little bit different. All the ones you can't pronounce that have like 20 syllables were not in the Diet Coke. So other countries regulate differently. Okay, so this is a big old plastic island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, down in the southern hemisphere, where the currents carry all this plastic. You'll notice most of it is bottles and other pieces of plastic that float in the ocean. There's one in the Atlantic too, where the currents kind of all meet together and they create this big island of plastic and garbage. So Coke and Pepsi, what is their responsibility? They have done absolutely nothing about this. Neither have any of the other plastic companies that use plastics. There are a couple of companies out there recycling this stuff. So they have these big skimmers that skim the water. Kind of interesting. If you guys get some extra time, you can always look that up. Okay. So what pressures do you see on companies to behave socially in responsible ways? So what are we doing? What are we doing to put pressure on these companies?
Posting about it on Twitter and then doing nothing.
Bitch and moan and complain about it and do nothing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. But what can we do?
Maybe we should do what Europe is doing.
Do what?
Well, in a perfect world, stop buying that company's products.
Okay, so stop going to Starbucks.
Possibly that could be a government thing, banning these products because of those certain things they've been doing.
So if the government comes out and says, hey, you make something that's plastic that might get thrown away and end up in the ocean, you should maybe get fined for it, or maybe you should build a skimmer to go skim the plastic off of the ocean.
Well, they banned the plastic straws, which
that's in California. Everybody else is normal. I mean, everybody else can have plastic straws.
And the thing is, it's like, if the company is big enough to pay off the fine, like Wells Fargo was, then it's like, what's the point of a fine at all?
That's exactly it. Are paper straws more expensive? Yes. Are they, so you spend an extra $1 million on paper straw, you're only getting fined $500,000. What's the incentive?
I mean, it's like the only pressure that the world could put on like a company that's like so darn big is if people actually cared to like boycott them. It's like there's the option to just not buy the product, like Niall said, but this is a global scale. Millions, if not billions, of people like participate and partake in the products of these big companies. And the only way you could ever shut them down is if the world like consciously like just said, you know what, I'm not going to buy your thing anymore. Therefore, you don't make profit. Therefore, either you have to change things. But
Okay.
it's like there's only so much social justice you can make in like little
Well,
pockets.
okay, for example, let's say, I'm not saying this is true, but let's say I'm a strong supporter of former President Trump. Okay, so Twitter banned him from going on their platform to promote his propaganda or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I say I don't want to stand for that. I'm going to boycott it. I'm not going to use Twitter anymore. I'm going to go use another platform. Well, there is no other platform, right? There's nothing that competes with Twitter. There's nothing that competes with, some of these companies. Microsoft, if I don't like their product, and I think they're socially irresponsible for whatever Microsoft is doing, what am I going to go use, right?
Well, nobody used to compete against blockbusters, and here is Netflix now that shut them out. So it can happen.
Yeah. So a lot of the things, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to accept it.
They had Parler before the Apple's App Store and then Google's App Store banned it, or at least put a restriction on it until it gets restructured to be within what they want the app to be, which is also quite scary because then you have these barriers to entry.
They pretty much shut that company down and almost destroyed it, which I'm pretty sure they will end up doing before they can recover from it. So, I mean, so what's the alternative?
Live in the forest and don't use any technology.
There's a show on called Life Below Zero, where a bunch of people who live off the grid in Alaska. It's kind of funny. These people are crazy. All right. So Chase was charged with 2 felony violations of Bank Security Act in connection with the relationship to Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff is the one who swindled millions of people out of their retirements, and they're saving mostly older people, your parents and your grandparents. They swindled them out of the money and went completely bankrupt. And then, he's basically going to be in jail for the rest of his life, and everybody that joined him was. But Chase got away with it. They invested tons of money with him, lost a bunch of money, swindled a bunch of people, and they got completely away with it with a few fines. Walmart is the biggest number one reason why medical social welfare recipients, because they don't employ their employees full time, don't give them medical benefits. So also discrimination is a very big thing with Walmart, and human rights violations. So this is the largest company, almost the largest company in the world. And they're getting away with all these different stuff. All right. And then SeaWorld, Blackfish, an expose of cruel treatment of orca whales at the park. But SeaWorld didn't really respond to it. He pretty much said, yeah, whatever, you guys, we don't care. And it went away. Nobody remembers it, right? You guys don't remember it, and this is only a few years ago. Monsanto, besides giving everybody cancer, they're also messing with the crops, making GMO. So the product that they have, the weed killer that they sell, they were actually spraying that on wheat to make it dry out faster, so they can process it faster and make more money. So that's what the big lawsuit on the cancer thing is. So that's still an ongoing thing, and they just paid a couple $100 million in fines, and they're okay and ready to go on business. So even though the government has certain laws, they're still self-regulating. They still do whatever they want. All right. So we talked about social entrepreneurship, the use of innovative organizations and business models to create social value. So we talked about Andy and his T-shirt company that made T-shirts just to help out the survivors of the nuclear fallout over there in Japan. When entrepreneurs strive to change the way people and groups think about problems, they work to create or change social institutes from government policies and norms. China is an example of this. So they're changing a lot of things, institutional change. So the institute itself changes. And that's something that we have a very difficult time with because our government structure is a lot different. The government just can't come out and change something with a executive order. Oh, wait a minute, they can, because Biden did that like the first week of office. So, but legally, they cannot do that, and a lot of what is done with the executive order will be challenged in court, like they did with Trump on everything he did, and I'm sure they're going to do the same thing with Biden. So you can't just change things overnight. It's not going to happen that way. First of all, you have to change attitudes. Sociobracular, a French word that means creating something by combining diverse and different elements into a new setting. Martin Burt, for example, we talked about him in the beginning, combined the traditional Paraguayan curriculum with proven agricultural education techniques. So he takes the agriculture and the entrepreneurship programs, put them together to achieve a new program, and created quite successfully. Brought a lot of farmers who were in poverty out of poverty. Also social engineer, social entrepreneur organizations work to create larger institutions. Philip Jonas back in the 80s had this big partnership for a drug-free America. This is when drugs were running rampant over the border. Basically the city of Miami was built off of drug money. The whole entire thing, we're talking about billions of dollars in skyscrapers and buildings. It didn't work. They did this social engineering thing, and it didn't work at all. That's where the saying, "This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs." When they have an egg in a frying pan, and it's sizzling. I don't know if you guys even know anything about that, but that's one of the things that they did back in the 80s that made everybody aware of what was going on with the drugs, but everybody still took them. It didn't matter. 80s, very fun time, let me tell you, from what I remember. All right, so final exam is Thursday, 3/18. Extra credit is due soon. That would be, and the iEvals, do not email them to me. I changed that. I set up on iLearn where you can turn them in. So make sure you turn them in with your screenshot. So do your screenshot, cut and paste them into iLearn, okay, into the assignment. And then the final project, we're going to use Wednesday of next week. I'm going to have an open forum during classroom time, so nobody can have the excuse, oh, I couldn't make it because I had other things to do, because you're supposed to be in class that day anyway. All right, questions, concerns?
Got a couple.
Okay, go.
Okay, first off,
No.
the lay work is still due by the 5th, is what I remember.
The what is?
You said that late work was due by this Friday, I think in an earlier lecture.
Sure, whatever it was.
Okay, and let's see the second thing. Oh, someone earlier said they were wondering if the Uber assignment was still required for Wednesday. Maybe you didn't mention that in the lecture. Do you still want us to do that?
That one is still due. I think it's not going to be posted until Friday or until Wednesday. Or no, it's due on Wednesday. Is it due on Wednesday?
It's due next Wednesday, yes.
Next
but it was
Wednesday.
Never mentioned.
It will be posted the 5th, and it's due the 10th. Yes, it is still good. Yes, you have to do it.
Okay, and the let's see, the mini case on Monday, that's also due?
Yes. What, you think
Okay.
it's just because it's the week 9 you get off on all your assignments?
Yeah, I've probably garnered the ire of everyone in this class for reminding you, and I feel bad about that.
That's all right. So how can I subjectively grade everybody if you do all your work and get an A?
Okay.
All right. Other question, Mark?
Mark, if you do the extra credit, it's 10 points. So it's 5 points for each one of those assignments. So technically, you just don't. You just
Well,
use
see, the
it.
thing is, I consciously chose not to do 2 case essays.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's on me. I'm gonna do them by Friday because I am a good person and a good student, I think.
Okay. But if everybody does the extra credit and I grade on a curve, doesn't that just kind of like zero out the extra credit?
Everyone do the extra credit. This class is good fun.
So, but you know, if I grade on a curve and you average out extra credit, so if everybody does extra credit, it just averages out of the curve, right?
So I
it's
should
like
tell people.
it's like nobody doing extra credit.
So I should tell people not to do extra credit
So
for my
those
benefit.
those 2 assignments that you didn't do, that extra credit's not going to make up for shit. See the fuzzy logic there?
So are you really not giving us extra credit? Like,
Yes, I'm giving you extra credit.
I
But I grade on a curve. So I take the top 10% gets A's, you know, and then 80% gets B's, and then 20% gets C's.
Okay. I have no other questions. Just concerns about myself.
You just don't like my answers. That's the reason why you stopped asking questions.
Yes, because the more I realize I'm too deep in a rabbit hole.
Do those. I would do those 2. If you want to get an A, you have to do those assignments.
I will definitely do those assignments. Do not worry.
Even though you're going to be late.
Yeah, I mean, what's the maximum score I could get on them? 2?
I don't know. Talk to your TA.
Dennis, you gonna throw me a bone here? Or?
Don't give him more than half a point, Dennis.
For the late work.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you might as well call class. I think you might as well call class here. I think I'm holding people like back.
Oh, we still got plenty of time. All right, everybody, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And I'm meeting with, I think, 2 groups today. So stick around. I will close out the meeting and then we can come back and then we can do that. All right, Kimberly, thank you. Peace out to you.
Thank
Goodbye,
you,
mate.
Professor.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. All right, I'm closing out.